Time for Law and Disorder.
I demand a lawyer.
With attorney Jeff Kaufman on 101.1 WJRR.
All right, Law and Disorder is brought to you by Kaufman Lynd. Personal injury attorneys. Jeff Kaufman, one of the fine partners there. If you or someone you know has been injured in a slip and fall, car accident, something of that nature, you might want to get a hold of Jeff and his partner Craig. Help you out. I think we got Jet Setter Jeff on the phone here this morning. Are you there, Jeff?
Yeah, can you hear me, guys?
Yeah,
Happy New Year.
We got you. Yeah.
Happy New Year. You're coming in crystal clear. When you need to get in touch with Jeff Kaufman, really easy. His direct email is jeff@whenyouneedus.com or #546 on your cell. You reach out to us, and I'll send you in the right avenue, the right direction as well. What are you doing out on the way? What are you, West Coast?
Yeah, continuing legal education. You're always studying. It's always part of the deal.
Do they give you homework for that?
No. You just have to sit through hours and hours of people talking about how great they are.
Is there at least a complimentary lunch buffet?
Normally you get a box with turkey sandwich. I think that's what we're getting today.
Yeah, those are the same things we get, Pat. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, the boxed lunch.
They have the chips in there, that nice little pickle, and afterwards usually a soft cookie.
A cookie, yes.
Yeah,
Very
Oreos.
good.
Yeah.
Okay. So some questions have come in for listeners that they want to run by you, Jeff. Some personal injury, some just general legal questions. You're good to go on both, and do a pretty bang-up job helping out lots of people here in Central Florida. What do we got, Taco?
And thank you for that. Here's to another year of helping out the JRR listeners, Kaufman. You're the man. All right, remember, when you text these into 22526, we always urge, keep them brief. And with that said, I've summarized this one. Pat, look at how long it was.
You're an enabler.
It is summarized to... No, well, this person had a really bad situation happen. They had a flood in their house right before Christmas. So they came in, the crews came in, were doing the work, they found mold. So they had to put all their furniture and stuff into the kitchen and living room while the air scrubbers and the blowers and all that stuff were there. Landlord gave them their security deposit back and had them leave the house and move out during the holidays, because this happened right before Christmas. Here's the question, was he required to pay for an Airbnb and moving expenses, Kaufman?
When you're talking about stuff like that, the question is that, do you have a right to the portion of your lease that you're not paying for? And normally what would happen in a situation like that is you could take the amount of money that would have went into paying your rent, and that should have gone towards your Airbnb. That's what they should have offered. In a situation like this, that normally happens because you do have a right when I sign a lease to what they call quiet enjoyment. And you're not having quiet enjoyment if your place is flooded at no fault of your own.
And not to mention the mold issue, which is a health potential situation there.
Yeah, that's part of it. If you get sick or something else like that, black mold is always one of those tough things to prove that that's the cause of your illness. But, it is definitely a claim.
All right. Here's for, we have a pet question, Kaufman. We were boarding a pet injury at that. I know your personal injury. This is pet injury. We were boarding our dog while on vacation, and they dropped our dog and dislocated his hip, requiring surgery. He will never be the same. They paid the bill. The people that were pet sitting. Right. They paid the bill, but should I be doing more?
Well, they're asking if you should sue, you should do something like that. They should be responsible for all future medicals. But in a situation like pain and suffering, that doesn't apply to an animal. Believe it or not, the state of Florida considers all pets basically property. So if, let's say, your pet died, God forbid, they would only be responsible for, and I know this sounds terrible, replacement value.
Oh, yeah, that does sound terrible.
I'm watching some series on Netflix right now, guys, where that subject, dogs and cats, came up. This dude said he swerved to avoid hitting a cat, and his partner said to him, he goes, in this country, a little fun fact, it's talking about England. In England. I don't know if it's true here or not. Because only the law says if it was a dog, you'd have to try to avoid hitting it, but if it was a cat, you could have just run it over.
The English have an interesting way of handling their issues.
Cold.
Wow.
Yeah.
What kind of shows are you watching?
Anyway.
I don't know. It's better than that Naked Attraction one from England. That's a horrible show.
I'm not familiar. Remember,
look it up.
If we don't get to your question, print them all up and we'll do them next week if we don't get to them. It's 22526 where you text them in like this one. Generally, how long does it take to receive funds after a settlement? I currently 3 years post-accident and 1 year post-settlement with insurance. So they're at about 3 years right now. Post-accident, 1 year after the settlement.
If I have to guess in a situation like this, normally the only time something takes this long is when your medical bills are actually higher than what you received. So, for example, let's say somebody hit you and they only had $10,000 of insurance, but you had like $50,000 of medical. You're not going to be able to. They'll just send a check, and your attorney has to negotiate these bills down. And sometimes these hospitals take a really long time to even try to do that if they're going to lower it at all. So I'm guaranteeing it's probably dealing with a medical cost issue where the medical cost exceeds the settlement. If it's for any other reason, then you might have a problem.
I got you. So it's delayed because of medical situation.
It's delayed because the medical bills are higher than what the settlement actually was.
Hey,
and that's normally why something like this happens.
If you're awarded a settlement of any sort in a court or whatever the situation, or a mediation agrees, or it comes, you're going to be paid X amount on this insurance policy or settlement or whatever. If that's not paid immediately and the recipient has to wait, are they entitled to interest on what they're being paid?
No, what happens is when an attorney settles a case, sometimes they wait months for the insurance company to get the check. Now, this check goes directly into a non-interest bearing account. The lawyer's not making any money. He's not making money off this case. Off the interest off this money. And like I said, in a situation like this, because I've seen this happen where, you are arguing with the doctors and the hospitals and everything else to lower their bills so that any money can go towards the client. So if it's outside that situation, I think, you might have an issue.
Okay, here's one with injuries. It said, have you seen injuries from multiple car accidents that have caused rib cage issues several years later? If so, how do you plan for that on a settlement claim? Like if you're going to get the effects of rib injuries later.
You're talking about future medicals. In a situation like this, something that happens spontaneously years later, there's really nothing you can do about that. Normally in a settlement, they give you they give a multiplier of your medical bills. And some of that is supposed to be the idea. Some of that is for future medicals. But it sounds like you're talking about something that just came out of the blue. And in that situation, there's no real way to forecast that.
And that's impossible to prove as well, that it was from that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it could be from something else. It could be a natural collapse. It could be in anything.
Could be you're just getting older. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean that does happen. But years later, like I said, you're in an accident. You're never going to be perfect.
Yeah.
And that's the sad part about it. But that's why the settlement is normally a multiplier of your total medical bills.
Okay, here's somebody that said at 22526, thank you for keeping these short like you have been, by the way. I was sued in 2003. How can I get the interest removed? I'm never paying this off given the current interest rate.
Well, I don't exactly know what kind of judgment you're dealing with here, whether it's a criminal one, whether it's a civil one, whether you agreed to a long-term loan on something like this, or you said, I'm going to pay $50 a month. I don't know the relationship you have and what deal it is. In fact, it's 2003. 20 years later, you're still paying on it. Seems a long time.
Yeah, that seems like it. My boss is also my landlord, and I have recently been looking for another job. When I mentioned it to him, he threatened me with an eviction. Is that legal? I don't think you would still live with him after anyway.
Playing hardball there.
That's a tough deal. The fact is that if you have an actual lease, he has to stick with it. Now, in a situation where you're paying month to month and you have no lease, then your lease period is 30 days, and he can give you notice.
Man, that would suck living with your boss because, if you're like you're not wanting to go into work that day, he's on to you immediately. Oh, I know you were out partying last night, Robbie.
Seemed fine this morning, jackass.
Yeah, you smell like a brewery.
Monitoring your ring, you know what I mean? That's the way it works.
There you go. Remember, all these questions that you send in, I see a bunch in front that we didn't get to. 22526, I print them up, and we'll do them next week with Kaufman.
All right, Jeff Kaufman from Kaufman Lynd Personal Injury Attorneys. Reach out if you've been injured in a slip and fall or an accident or something like that. The key is to find out if you've got an action, of course, that needs to be taken. And if you do, Jeff will be more than happy to help you. And if he doesn't think you've got a situation warranting legal representation, guess what? He'll be the first one to tell you that as well.
And save you the money. Yeah, his direct email, jeff@whenyouneedus.com or #546 on your cell.
Well, hey, Jeff, enjoy your boxed turkey lunch and the chips and the pickle and maybe hopefully the cookie there for you, buddy.
Always learning. What can I tell you?
Jeff Kaufman, everybody. Law and Disorder.
Lynch and Taco on demand. Download the iHeartRadio app.